We are going to talk about gun control today. It is an ever-present issue within the country. It
hmm
is important. Everybody has a bunch of very heated opinions about it. And I mean, the first thing I'll say is that it's damn difficult to get data about this subject.
It
Uh,
is.
it is the most propagandized subject that you and I could possibly talk about.
It's also very widespread. It's one that if you do something um, to do something, if you do something in relation to gun laws, you have to wait a certain number of years before you actually have any tangible information as to whether it had any impact or not.
Right.
And you also would have to compare it to other places that didn't impose the same laws, and
hmm
yeah, very difficult.
It's difficult to get the stuff. It's difficult to get the numbers. And even then, I have a funny feeling that you and I are about to show each other numbers and then doubt that the numbers are real, or attack those numbers, or suggest that that number is gathered improperly. And even
Certainly.
that is what most gun
It's
debates
actually
turn
probably what I'll
into.
do right after you read this
I
section that you're about to read.
don't mind leading with this, but I do have a conclusion that I will probably throw at you at the end.
Okay,
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to just kind of start with this stuff?
I'll go for it.
Per capita gun ownership, there are about 410 million guns in the United States today. Uh, More, in fact, than the population of the country, or about 121 guns per 100 people. Uh, the per capita number of guns is growing at a rate exceeding that of the population, with a sharp upswing during the Trump administration. With only 5% of the world's people, the nation owns 46% of the world's guns. Americans are also careless with their guns. Nearly half of gun owners don't even bother to lock them up. In Western Europe, gun ownership averages about 19 per 100 people. The global mean is roughly half of that because many nations impose severe restrictions on the number of and kinds of firearms. The per capita gun ownership is statistically significant predictor of gun death rates regardless of cause, level of training, type of firearm, or any other factor. If there are millions of guns in the hands of millions of people, there will be a higher incidence of gun-related homicides. That's just obvious. Suicides and accidents in
Yes.
comparison to the population of equal size where guns are not so prevalent. These deaths will inevitably occur with a certain predictable frequency. In 2020, 45,000 people died in the United States from gun-related injuries. Um, 19,000 were murdered, and I think the rest were suicide. It increased nearly 35% from 2019. Suicides by firearm are still higher, and that's basically my entire argument. We have the most guns. We have the most gun violence.
All right. Well, the first thing I'm gonna do is reject the use of gun deaths or gun-related homicides as a valid statistic.
Because it doesn't matter how many people died.
Well, it does matter how many people died, except for the fact that if you want to talk about how many people died, you should be using the homicide rate, not the gun deaths rate. Because obviously, if you have more guns, you're going to have more gun deaths. That's obvious, just like you said, right?
Great.
Except
That's
that
all I need.
well, no, because the homicide rate in a country is going to be much more comparable to others. Because, first of all, the U.S. is one of only like 11 countries that actually captures gun death statistics.
hmm
So if you have to use homicide rate if you want to talk about all of these other countries, if you want to compare um, statistics here, you have to talk about homicide rate. And to suggest that if we didn't have guns, then people wouldn't commit homicide is ridiculous. It's totally absurd.
Hang on.
Yes, if
Let
you
me
have
run that
more
by me.
guns,
Run that by me one more time.
if you
If
have more guns, people will commit their homicides with guns.
okay,
If you don't have guns, they will commit their homicides some other way.
good. I would like them to commit them some other way.
Would you? Are you
Yes,
sure?
literally. Yes. A doctor can fix your stab wound better than he can a bullet wound. That's not even debatable. A doctor can fix your uh, multiple lacerations by a knife better than he can your entire spleen being exploded by a bullet.
I
Yes,
don't think that.
literally.
No, I don't think that. I don't think that this is a question of whether a doctor can fix you up or not. This is a question of, um, would you? I mean, is it really preferable to be killed by a knife versus being killed by a bullet. We're talking
Yes,
about
literally.
homicide rates where
Yes,
the doctor.
literally.
No, we're
Yes.
talking about homicide rates where we're talking about people that died.
Okay, so homicide
Okay,
is the fact
so
that they've died. You would have less homicides and more manslaughters and more assaults if there were fewer guns. The homicide rate would go down
I
because it's more likely to survive and you'd get tired. Swinging a knife is hard. Stabbing 75 people is way more difficult than shooting 75 people.
oh, you don't have to stab 75 people. If you want to have a mass event, you just do what that guy did at the Ariana Grande concert in Manchester,
What
where
did he do?
he detonated a bomb. It killed 23 people and injured 1,019 of them.
That's a very large number. I don't want him to have bombs.
Well, you can make them.
Okay,
If
then
people
we
want
should
to
stop
commit
them
these
from doing
crimes,
that.
if people want to commit these crimes, they're going to do it.
Okay, great. Let's prevent it.
Well, okay, how do you
How
stop someone from 3D printing a gun?
how do you stop someone 3D printing a gun? Have the FBI watch the websites where you get the uh, patterns. 3D printers work off of a uh, computer model, right?
Hmm.
Have law enforcement have a cyber division that watches that and sees who's downloading these things, and then tell the people this is illegal. You are not allowed to download this thing. There are things on my computer that on the internet. Sorry, not my computer, but on the.
Oh boy.
Oh no. Oh
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 boy.
no. They're on to me. Uh, there are things on the internet that I could download that are illegal, right?
Certainly.
Okay, great. That would be one of them.
Are you sure that a blueprint for a 3D printed firearm is illegal right now?
I doubt
Because
that
I
it's
don't think it
illegal.
is.
I don't think it is. I think you could make it so that it is. I think you could suggest that that is a illegal thing. You could pass a law that says 3D
And not only that,
printing.
but if you make it illegal, do you really think you're going to be able to catch everybody that makes one?
No, it's
No,
illegal to do lots of things, but people still do it. But we try to prevent them from doing
certainly it
it.
is.
So we try to prevent them. So trying to prevent someone from 3D printing a gun is a good idea because the reason they would 3D print it is what reason would they have for 3D printing it other than trying to dodge the laws that already exist?
That is what people do. They
Right,
try to circumvent laws. Yes.
right. So they're trying to circumvent the law, and then they would, and if I make that harder, if I put 17 hurdles in between the the bad guy and the goal, that's good. If I put 25 hurdles in between the bad guy and the goal, that's even better. But I recognize that at some point, those hurdles might get in the regular person's way, a non-criminal's way, and we have to
That
decide
that is a problem.
each of those
Yes.
hurdles. So we have to look at each of those hurdles and determine which hurdles are good, which hurdles are bad, and which hurdles are just we just walk right by.
Okay. So I kind of want to just bring this back to what I was
Okay,
saying is
homicide
I
rates.
if we're going to talk about guns
Hmm.
and their impact on a society,
Hmm.
I don't view gun deaths as a valid statistic for this purpose. I want to see homicide rates. Are the homicides, the people that actually are getting killed, are they um, reduced by restricting guns or not? If homicides are not reduced, then necessarily gun deaths being a part of homicides is not a useful statistic.
I think you're throwing out 24,000 people. Sorry, let me do the math here real quick. Well,
The people
19
committing
might.
suicide.
Right, yeah, I think you're throwing them out. Or the accidental gun injuries. Because you're saying that 45,000 people died in the U.S. from gun-related injuries, and you're like, nah, that don't matter. Throw that out. We don't care. We only care about murders, which is
Well,
20,000.
those
So
those
there's
those
the 20.
deaths are murders. I do care about those.
Well, those
That's what I'm
25,000,
arguing.
the 25,000 people, you're just going to disregard it. That's number that you're disregarding. 25,000 people who died in gun-related injuries, but were not homicides. You're just Throwing that number out.
Wait, what?
It's not
No.
important.
Go back to that.
Okay.
What does that say?
45,000 people died in the United States
Died
for
from
gun-related
gun-related
injuries.
injuries.
Of these, 20,000 were murders. So there's 25 that were just accidents, injuries, or you're cleaning it and it went off and you died.
Actually, it
It's
looks like it's
25,000,
not.
right?
So about 1,000 died on accident, and 24,000 died because they killed themselves.
Okay, so 24,000 and okay,
That was. I'm trying to figure
okay.
out. I was just trying to figure out what your
All right, all right.
numbers
You're
were.
right. You're right. You're right. I was misquoting that number. So those 25,000 number, you want to disengage from that number because you're saying it's not relevant and we only need to worry about homicides.
Well, I think that that number itself is another question entirely. Is it seems to me that a lot of the proponents of gun control are doing it because of the homicides that are committed using guns, and it's always every time we have a shooting, it's we need more gun control. I
Hmm.
mean, that's we argued a couple weeks ago about the three legislators that stormed whatever state's capital or whatever and
Hmm. The
shouted with a
Justins.
megaphone
Yeah,
through the
yeah.
Justins, yeah, and we're shouting about wanting more gun control,
Hmm.
and I was like, sorry, you're not getting you're not getting the guns.
Hmm.
Well, this is, I mean, a separate issue from the suicides and whatnot.
Hmm.
Uh, so when we talk about gun deaths, I think it is valuable to separate homicides and count all gun homicides as just homicides,
Okay. So we
and
need.
to separate suicides
Okay.
and to separate accidental deaths.
Okay. So we need to separate those.
Yes.
That's not unreasonable. Uh,
Okay. So,
so homicide rates. I've got it up on the screen right now.
yep.
And you're going to suggest what? That this is a very low number? I don't know
Well,
what you're
it's
going to
not
suggest.
actually. I would suggest that you pull up the link that I sent you.
I think I did.
It's a little bit old. It's from 2014.
Is that this one?
That's the
Comparing
one.
murder
Wait,
rates,
no.
gun
Yeah,
ownership
yeah, yeah,
across
yeah.
countries.
That's
Yeah,
the
this is the
one.
one you sent me. Yeah, and this is where I
Yep.
got
So
that
yeah, that's
graph.
where you got that. So
Hmm.
if you scroll down some, we'll see a scatter plot.
Hmm.
Little there. Well, there you go. So gun ownership and homicide rates.
Hmm.
So you might notice that our scatter plot of firearms per 100 people is actually skewed downwards.
Hmm.
Now, this is including a lot of countries, especially ones that are not typically included because they're not developed nations, as we call them. So if you scroll down some more, we'll just do developed countries. And a little more. There we are. So you'll notice again that this correlation is to the negative. And I'm not even going to suggest that having more guns reduces a homicide rate. I think that's a ridiculous assertion. This is a correlation, not a causation, right? Or this is a correlative relationship, not a causal relationship.
Okay.
But you'll notice that Switzerland has, outside of the United States, the highest gun ownership rate
Hmm.
and also among the lowest of homicide rate.
Hmm.
And the same goes for Finland, actually, with slightly higher homicide rate, but also among the highest of gun ownership rates.
Hmm.
So what I'll suggest to you is that gun ownership rates do not actually have a substantial impact on homicide rates.
What? It literally does. I'm looking right at it. We have the most guns, and we have more murders than all the other civilized parts of the world.
Well, we're looking at comparisons, right? So
Hmm.
Switzerland has the second most guns,
Hmm.
and they have substantially fewer murders than New Zealand or Norway or
Mm-hmm.
Turkey
Mm-hmm.
or Chile or especially Russia
Yeah, Russia's a
uh,
shithole, but um,
or Greece.
and they're barely even
I mean,
civilized.
all of those little dots to the left of Switzerland
Uh-huh.
have fewer guns, and yet Switzerland is at the same or fewer homicides
I
to
agree.
those
We
countries.
we should strive to be more like Switzerland. I think that's a good idea. Um, there's probably a reason for that. I don't know what it is. The maybe they're all fat and happy eating chocolate and having a good time. I think, if I remember correctly, the reason they have so many guns is because they train every single one of their citizens to be in the army or something like that, and then they just give them a gun and say keep it. I think that's what that is.
That is how they
But
do that. Yes,
that is
they
how they do.
literally
Okay.
give their citizens guns.
Okay, great. And they have a lower homicide rate than Norway and Finland.
Mm.
That's
And
fine.
Turkey.
And Turkey. Well, I don't want to get into the Baltic states. It's a fucking mess. Um,
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to discuss that because things get weird. Um,
Why do you think Mexico's and Brazil's problems are so high? They have such a high homicide rate despite only having, you know, 10 or 20% of the guns that the United States have.
the drug war. Mexico and Brazil make the drugs, send them north, and then the guns are manufactured in America and sent south. Uh, this I have no idea how they got this number. They were probably speaking to actual Mexican citizens and the people who owned them, but the gangs in Mexico, the drug cartels own lots and lots and lots and lots of guns. I don't believe this little thing right here. Mexico should be
You don't
higher
believe
on
it.
there. Well, because they didn't. This was a survey of some sort, yes?
Yes.
Did they go to the cartel and ask them how many guns they had to make their survey? No, they probably didn't. So they've got a whole bunch, and that cartel is centered in Mexico, and they didn't count their guns. So this number ought to be much higher for Mexico, is what I'm going to suggest.
Okay, that's fair. Do you think that that actually substantially changes the um this correlation here?
Yes, I think that Mexico dot should be farther to the right and about the same height.
Okay. And do you think that the line that we're looking at in terms of correlation between gun ownership and homicide rate is substantially altered by moving Mexico to the right somewhat?
I don't think that line changes all that much, no.
Okay. So we're looking at a correlation here that says that I'm not going to suggest that gun ownership and homicide rates are inversely correlated, as that line would suggest. But I will suggest that that line is saying that gun ownership and homicide rates are not correlated.
I think we proved that it is right here by having the United
No,
States right here. We have the
no,
most guns
because
and we
no,
have more
no,
homicides than we
it's
ought to.
ridiculous. It's
We
so
have
ridiculous. Look
more
at the look.
homicides than we should. We
This
should be
suggest.
in this area down
Is
here
there
with
some
Switzerland.
threshold at which point the the gun ownership suddenly becomes, it's like, oh, we hit 60% and now we're jumping up to a homicide rate of 5? Like, what? This is not, it's
There's probably
nonsensical.
no math to figure that out, but this chart, I'm looking at it. We have the most guns and we have lots more murders than these other countries, who I would compare us to generally. We are an outlier.
On the basis of having twice as many guns,
Mm-hmm.
where are we have 90 versus Switzerland's 45.
Mm-hmm.
Why does Switzerland, or why do we not just have twice as many homicides
They
as
don't
opposed to
have
Switzerland?
they don't have to be directly correlated to be connected.
Well, they're
I,
obviously they're not, because Finland has fewer guns and they have a higher homicide rate,
uh-huh. I'm not
and
suggesting that
France has way fewer guns and they have a higher homicide rate than Switzerland,
hmm
and Norway
I'd
has
call them
way fewer
comparable.
guns.
They're
They have a
within the
higher.
same. This is a 2% versus a 1%. and this is a percentage. We are
Well, no, we're
much
talking
higher.
about a homicide rate of 1 versus a homicide rate of 2 or a homicide rate of 4 or 3, and the United States is at 5.
We're above 5 on this chart, and I'm suggesting, yes, that number would be lower than 5 if we were further left on this
Do you think that it
chart.
would be?
Yes,
Do you think that if we moved to the left on this chart, that we'd actually be comparable to Switzerland
yes,
or to France?
yes.
I think that your assertion is ridiculous.
How is that ridiculous?
It just is.
If you
We
got
have.
it can't be ridiculous because do you agree with me that it's easier to survive a stab wound than a gunshot wound? Do you think that that's a true statement? Surgeons will tell you that's a true statement. It's easier to
It
survive a
depends
stab
on the
wound than a
stab
bullet.
wound
Okay, sure. It also depends on the bullet and stuff like
and
that.
the location of the stab and the location of the bullet.
Okay,
So I
great.
don't agree with you um, without any without reservation. I'd
Okay.
say if you get shot in the heart, you're going to die. If you get stabbed in the heart, you're going to die.
Uh-huh.
Um, if you get stabbed in the throat, you're going to die. If you get shot in the throat, you're going to die.
You have a better chance of surviving a stab wound because yes, it's letting all your blood out and it's harming you and it's doing a severe damage. It's not creating a grapefruit-sized exit wound. You know, the way
Most
bullets
bullets
do.
don't do that nowadays.
Well, bullets still. I mean, I know the nice 9mm ball rounds that a lot of cops and military use are come out the back without creating that giant uh, gaping exit wound. But you can survive a stab wound better. And in that case, the homicide rate, it wouldn't be a homicide anymore. And that number would come down. By your own logic, if you survive, if more people survive, the homicide rate goes down and it's not a homicide anymore. So that number would go down if the people doing the homicides didn't have guns. And that is the basis of the idea that I have. It's um, it's that you can survive stab wounds better. Yes, you're right. The people who want to kill will kill because they're bad people and they want to kill people. It's harder to stab 75 people than it is to shoot them, than shoot 75 people.
Yes, it is harder to stab 75 people than to shoot 75 people. That's why the guy in Manchester detonated a bomb.
Right. We should also prevent him from getting bombs.
You can't. You
You
can
can.
make bombs at home.
You can try to prevent people from making bombs. You can.
I mean,
You can.
we have our own edition of that with the Unabomber made. You can make bombs out of fucking fertilizer.
Right. And if you buy too much fertilizer, it trips some red flags. And then the FBI is like, hey, this guy bought a bunch of fertilizer. Let's just go check on him a little bit. And then they start checking on you. It makes sense. I'm okay with this. If anybody buys 2 tons of fertilizer tomorrow, I am very much okay with the federal government getting rung up and said, hey, we got this guy. He bought 2 tons of fertilizer. I'm totally okay with the government checking on that. I don't think that's a harmful thing for them to do.
I don't either. All I'm saying is that people that want to, you just agreed to it. People that want to kill somebody or kill people are
Mm-hmm.
going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to find a way.
Right. And I would
This
like for
this
them
hysteria
to.
over guns is it's irrational. It's because
How
the
is it
killings are
irrational?
taking place with guns.
Guns kill people.
You would
That's
you
what
would
they.
take
Guns kill things. That's what they do. It's what they're built for. That's their entire purpose. They are killing machines. It
indeed it
is
is,
not
and yes, they are.
irrational. It is not irrational to be worried about the killing machines. It is not
Um,
irrational to be
well,
afraid for
no,
your
because
children to go to school
it,
because
it would
of
be
all the damn
rational to
shootings.
be afraid of the killing machines if they were sentient, right? If they could make their own decisions like the Terminator. But they're not. Somebody has to pull that trigger.
Right. So people are the problem.
Indeed.
Great. Why do you want those people to have guns? Why, if people are the problem, why do you want them to be owning killing machines?
They will find a way to get a killing machine, and if they do have one, somebody else has got to be able to stop them from using it.
Okay. I think that you just mentioned that it's okay for the government to try to prevent people from building bombs. But if it's guns, you're absolutely not okay with the federal government preventing people from buying guns. I just can't draw that distinction. I mean, I think you're making a distinction there, but I don't know
I,
why.
the distinction is very important, actually. And it goes back to the fundamentals. We started discussing this last time, but I didn't want to do the gun control debate um,
Hmm.
right away because I knew it would take too long,
Hmm.
and we were on a different topic.
Right, right.
So, in terms of last discussion,
Hmm.
we were discussing the right to life, liberty, and property, right?
Right. Okay.
I'm going to ask you a question here. It might break your brain, so
Hmm.
just be prepared. You're
Hmm.
going to take psychic damage.
Hmm.
Um, of what value are those rights if you can't defend them?
What value are those rights if you can't defend them?
Hmm.
If someone is taking those rights from you, then they are harming you.
Uh-huh. And you can't
I
defend
agree.
them.
You can try.
I mean, you have those rights by, I mean, that's our natural rights, so you have them, but of what value is it to have them if there is no possibility to defend them?
Is anybody trying to take them away from you right now?
They could.
Okay. Then
Someone very well could try to take your
if
life
someone
or your
is
liberty or your
great,
property.
if someone is trying to take your rights away, I accept the fact that you will defend yourself and
Okay.
those rights. I accept that. That's fine.
And by what means are we supposed to defend them?
And you can. That's a decision to be made. If someone is
So,
trying
so
to,
a gun would probably be a very effective way of doing that, wouldn't it?
if it's threatening the life of the person who's trying to take your rights, sure it would.
Yeah, so if someone's trying to take my rights,
Okay.
and I have various methods of defending my rights, one
Hmm.
of which would be via force, which is
Physical force, yes.
yes.
That is a way
So I
to.
have options
Hmm.
for that.
Hmm.
I mean, I could use a knife, I could use a bat, or I
Hmm.
could use a gun. The
Hmm.
other two require me to defend my rights up close and personal,
Hmm.
whereas a gun can fire something at range,
Hmm.
right? It provides me with a much greater ability to defend my rights.
It gives you a much greater chance of harming that person and stopping them from taking your rights away. Yes,
Yes,
I'm not
yes, somebody that's a
doubting
bad
that.
actor that would infringe upon my rights,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, I'm on board so far.
The difference between having a gun and having a bomb is that having a bomb is not meant for self-defense. That is why I'll argue against having a bomb versus
Hmm.
having a gun. Because the
Bombs.
bomb is not used for preventing someone from infringing upon your rights. A bomb is used to infringe upon other people's rights to life. A bomb is used to specifically to cause harm,
Uh huh.
whereas a gun can be used as a method of defense
And how does that gun defend? How?
by
Threatening death.
threatening death or
Yes.
yeah,
So
yeah, that's fine.
I don't see a difference between the two.
You don't.
Bombs are more insidious because you could
And do
hide
you
them, or
think
you
that
could put them there, or you could detonate them at the wrong time. I do
do
think
you
that bombs
think
are
that
worse than guns. Yes,
a bomb do you, wait, hold on a second.
bombs are worse than
You really
guns.
think that a bomb is about to be used in self-defense?
No, maybe not really.
Well,
I think that is a
there's
very
the
very
distinction,
small,
isn't it?
very small chance of a bomb being used in self-defense. I do not think that a bomb would be generally considered a
It'd probably be a
self-defense
really
weapon.
bad idea, wouldn't it?
It would
I
not
mean,
be a
you
good
might
idea
be hit by your
because
own shrapnel,
right,
wouldn't
you
you?
can be hit by your own shrapnel. It is a very small chance that a bomb would be used in self-defense. I think that is a weapon of war that ought not to be used by the regular public to defend themselves.
I mean,
And I'm
a
okay with the
bomb by
government.
definition is not a weapon of defense. It's a weapon of attack.
Guns are not a weapon of defense.
They are.
No.
They can be.
How does it
Absolutely.
defend? How does it defend, man? I'm going to say it over and over again. How does it defend? By threatening death. That
It
is how a
does.
gun
Yes,
defends.
it
So
threatens
the
death.
bomb is
But
threatening
if you,
death. I've got
the
a bomb
bomb
over there and I'm
threatens death
threatening
for
death.
everyone around. The
So
gun
can
is
I?
very specific.
It so because the bomb is general death and the gun is specific death to the person I
Yes.
pointed at, unless I miss, or it goes through them and hits the children in the background, or I spray and pray and hit lots of innocent civilians. I don't see a difference between these two.
That is,
Guns can
I
kill
do not
people
know how you can't see the
unintentionally.
difference.
Guns kill
They
people
sometimes do.
unintentionally. Yes.
Sometimes they do. Yes, they do.
Okay, great.
But
So they are on
that is
different
user
levels. I
error.
recognize that
That
they are on
is not
different
the same thing as a
levels.
bomb.
I
A
recognize
bomb
they're on different
is,
levels.
by definition, going to kill everything in a general area, right? A gun is very specific, as long as the user is capable, obviously. But the important thing here
I
is
accept a gun is a more specific killing machine. Yes.
it is very specific, and the point of it, and the point of our Second Amendment
Very
is
specific.
to
It's more specific.
it's very specific.
It's not the
In
Death
fact,
Note. It's
the
not
direction
the Death
that
Note.
you point that barrel when you pull that trigger, the bullet's going to go in the direction of that barrel. Now, you might
And
suck.
the
You might be a
human,
shitty shot,
yeah, which
and you might
makes
pull your trigger when you
uh-huh,
shoot, which means you miss.
and then it goes
But the
farther than you
bullet is
wanted.
still going exactly in the direction of the barrel.
Okay, great. And
But
it can go through people. It can go through walls. It can ricochet off of other things. It can cause secondary damage. It can cause splinters of something else. If you hit a wall,
and
the
even
shrapnel
then,
from the wall could still harm you.
even then, it still would not be as damaging as a bomb.
I
I
agree.
honestly
I
cannot
agree.
believe how you would equate those two things.
I'm agreeing. It is a
And why are
more.
you arguing with me?
It's a.
Why would you argue with me over
It's
the
a.
question of bombs versus guns? That was your initial question, wasn't it? I'm okay
I'm,
with regulating bombs,
yes,
but I'm not okay with regulating guns.
that's your stance. I'm okay with regulating bombs differently than guns. Guns also need regulation. Bombs need more. They're on different levels.
Okay.
Bombs need lots more regulation than the
I'm
guns.
sure
The
when you
guns still
review
need
the initial
regulations.
conversation of the stream, or not the stream, but this particular segment, then you'll see that what I'm the question you asked me is the reason we're on this subject.
Hmm.
Now, in terms of defending yourself using a gun,
Mm-hmm.
the gun is the great equalizer, right? Um,
Okay.
would you suggest that a 5'1", 105-pound woman would be able to defend her rights against a 6'2", 210-pound man without a gun?
Without a gun? No, that
Without
would
one.
take special training and or a weapon of some sort.
It doesn't. There's no training. There's no training in the world that would be able to let her defeat this man that wants to violate her rights, whether it's rape and murder or whatever, or just stealing from her.
I mean, she could run real fast. What if she trained as a sprinter? That's training, right? She outran him. He's gone. She ran to a more populated place, and now he cannot do those things. So that's a training thing. So it's not impossible. Also, women can learn self-defense training. That is a thing that
That
happens.
that self-defense training will not be useful against a 210-pound man. I'm sorry, not a 6'2", 210. No, a 5'1", 105 is not fighting off a 6'2", 210. She might be able to run away, maybe, if she is trained as a
I'm not
sprinter.
saying we've locked them in a room and forced them to battle to the death. I'm saying self-defense training, hit him in the balls, run off, scream real loud, blow a whistle, poke him in the eye and run away. Something along those lines. I'm
I have
not
a
saying
better
she's
idea.
going to. You have a better idea, and that
Yeah,
is
just
what?
shoot him.
Great. I agree that that would
All
be
right.
more effective.
It would be way more effective. By
Yes.
far.
Yes.
By tens. but by hundreds even of percent more
Okay,
effective.
I agree it's more effective.
Now, this person that is defending themselves against the infringement upon their natural rights. Without guns, how is she supposed to do that? Let's say
With
that sprinting away, she's
what do
not
you
an
think
Olympic
my
sprinter.
position is? This is the
Your
thing that
your
kills me every time we
position
talk
is
about.
less guns,
Yes, actually my position
and
is
how
no
do
no no
you
no, hang on.
plan to achieve that?
My position is licensing for guns. That's my position. You have to. This woman who you're describing is worried about that, so she goes to a government place. She applies for the license. She gets the license. She buys her gun and she carries it and she has it. That's all acceptable to me.
We have that. It's called concealed carry license.
Right. Except in Texas where they just got rid of that. Right.
Okay.
Permitless concealed carry. So there was uh, rules for that, and we're and I'm okay with that. Like this is fine if this person that you described goes in there, gets a license, buys the thing, follows the rules, gets trained, and does it. I'm okay with that. This is fine. I'm not fighting against that. I'm not suggesting that no guns should ever exist anywhere ever. It's not what I'm suggesting. It's not the even the leftist position. Nobody is suggesting that all the guns should cease to exist and we should stomp into everybody's house and take them. That's not what I'm suggesting.
Okay. What exactly is it that you are suggesting then? What policies are you in favor of here?
Um,
Because
licensing that's connected
we're
to your
talking
mental
about
health. Licensing that is connected to a doctor saying that you are healthy enough to own this thing.
interesting. So there was a time when I may have been swayed to that position,
Mm-hmm.
but I have some questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, do you think that that could end up having the opposite effect of what you intend?
Possibly. In which
So,
case, I would accept evidence to the contrary.
okay. So what you understand what I mean by that, right? Is you make it so that people cannot purchase a firearm if they have some sort of mental health diagnosis,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that deter people from going to see a psychologist because they may want to purchase a gun or they already have one, and now you're making it a dichotomy between having that
You
gun,
have to
which
choose then whether to get mental health or to have
or
a
to
gun.
have a
Uh,
gun, whether it's
will
that's for personal protection or whatever,
it
right?
might it might
So now
if
instead of treating these two issues separately and treating mental health and also handling the gun problem, then now you have people that don't treat their mental health
mm-hmm,
or don't seek to get it treated,
mm-hmm,
and then also go and buy a gun. And the reason that they didn't get their mental health treated is because they wanted to buy a gun. And now you have an untreated person with a mental health condition purchasing a gun.
mm-hmm. They can do that now.
Yes, they can.
Okay, great. So
Except
I
that
put a
are
hurdle.
you
They dodged the hurdle. I put a hurdle. I suggested
well,
we put
you've
this
you've
hurdle there, and
you've
you're
you've put the
saying that they
hurdle
dodged the hurdle. Yeah.
off the track. You haven't put it on the track. That's the problem. You've put it off the track to where it's if you go seek mental health counseling or something,
Mm-hmm.
then it's possible that you then get referred not to be able to purchase a firearm
Good.
or even to have one. But if I
Good.
don't seek that mental health counseling,
That's where the track.
then
I've put the hurdle on the track, and now you're leaving the track. You are saying
are you
I can
suggesting
see
that
this
in
hurdle.
order
I
to
I see the
wait
hurdle
wait
on the
wait wait
track, and
wait
I'm going to get on the
are you
grass and walk around it.
suggesting that in order to purchase a firearm you should have to see a mental health counselor first?
No, I think you have to get a license, and I think that license ought to check your check to see if you've had mental health problems.
Okay, And so when they check to see it, if they see that you suffer from depression, they won't give it to you.
Depends, maybe.
Or if you suffer from autism, they won't give it to you.
I don't think autism would be disqualifying, but there will be. Um, I would suggest a government department that checks on it, does a tally almost, and if you're
Haven't
above a certain number on that tally, then they deny
it
the licensing at the moment and request further information or something like that, and then you can appeal that with information, or you can appeal it with doctor's notes. Uh,
always these mystical government departments with you, but
I know
it,
that's
the
how
my
systems work.
my 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 point is here then if someone wants to own a firearm and also struggles with mental health, you are now making it you're now conflating those two issues.
I'm not the one that
What you may
conflated them.
be doing here
It's
is deterring them from seeking mental health assistance.
because they would then see that hurdle, get off the track, walk along the grass, and go around that hurdle. They have now left civil society. They have now left the systems we have in place to prevent problems. If I want to watch an anime and it's not on Crunchyroll, I see that
Did
as a hurdle.
did
I
we
have to
not
jump into the grass and put on my
in the last like 20
eye patch.
years, did we not just destigmatize or work towards destigmatizing the process of seeking mental health assistance?
We did, and that's good.
We did. And you would seek to re-stigmatize that through making it so that people that have a mental health condition cannot purchase a firearm for their self-defense.
Yes. If you want to view it as such, yes. If there are people who are looking at that hurdle of, hey, I got to get this cleared, I got to get this license, and the license is going to check my mental health. If that's not an acceptable answer, if checking somebody's mental health is not acceptable before they buy guns, then I need every Republican lawmaker to shut the fuck up about mental health. That's all there is to it.
You
They
can work
fucking
with both.
scream
No,
mental health, mental health, mental health,
you can
mental
work
health,
with
mental health,
both
mental health. That's what they do.
scenarios separately. You can
No,
provide
you
someone with mental health
can't.
treatment. Yes, you can. You can provide someone with mental health treatment and also not infringe upon their right to defend themselves.
We have to. If the mental health is the problem, but you cannot connect mental health to owning a weapon, then why the fuck are they talking about it? Why the fuck do they bring it up every single fucking time? When a mass shooting happens, the game is afoot. The game begins. The game starts. We start checking this guy on Facebook. What ideology was this guy? Oh my God, is that a trans person or are they a right-wing Nazi? The one that happened last week was a right-wing Nazi. He was. He has the I forget where it was now. It happened last week, and I was like, oh man, I wonder if we were going to bring this up. Um, he has a swastika and SS tattoos all over him, and he walked into a mall in Texas and started shooting people. I would prefer that person have gone to a government agency, tried to get a license, and then that person doing the license gathers all his information, takes it to some sort of medical database. These people will have to have clearances and trust that they aren't misusing their power. Find out if this person has mental health issues, and if they do, then deny them the license and tell them to get with their doctor and bring back a paperwork that suggests that you're allowed to buy a firearm.
Well,
That's the
right there, you made a
process.
very important caveat there,
Sure,
didn't you?
sure.
Is the part where you have to trust that these people are not abusing their power,
We
right?
have to trust that Donald Trump is telling the truth. We have to trust that George Santos has a treasurer. We have to trust that people in power are not abusing
No,
it.
we don't have to trust that. We don't have to trust that at all.
You
And in
have to.
fact, trusting it blindly is a bad idea.
I'm not suggesting blindly. I'm saying put in a government bureaucracy that checks these things. And if you're using that authority that you have to check on people's backgrounds, to stalk your ex girlfriends, then you're abusing that power and you get fired.
I think that I think that bureaucracy typically ends up just obscuring the distrustful behavior that's taking place in the first place.
It's possible that a bureaucracy could obscure the person at the gun licensing place from looking up his ex-girlfriend's personal information. Yeah, bureaucracy can
No, I
cover
think
that
that
up, but right now there's nothing. Right?
specifically
Well,
bureaucracy exists to obscure improprieties by government agents
it's
generally.
not why you create bureaucracy. It's not the
Well, it's
purpose
not
of
why you
bureaucracy.
create it; it's just how it ends up working.
Well, we need a licensing agency. We need somebody to hand out those licenses and make decisions on those licenses. That's a bureaucrat. The minute the minute you mention a license, the bureaucracy exists.
I didn't
You
mention
know,
no
I know,
licenses. You did.
I did. Great. I'm mentioning licenses. Will there be bureaucracy? Yes. But if you want to, uh,
You specifically mentioned license for mental health
you get a
or
license.
license, and
That
the first thing
license
you mentioned was
checks
mental
for
health.
mental health. Yes, great.
All right, what else?
Um,
I reject the idea that a person should have their first of all their medical records pulled before they are able to purchase a gun because medical records are not part of any background check,
okay, then
and that is a HIPAA violation. So you're suggesting we violate HIPAA in order to purchase a firearm.
HIPAA is
But
bureaucracy. Um, then I'm going to need you to wrangle up all of the Republicans and tell them shut the fuck up about mental health.
no,
Yes,
these are not mutually exclusive positions.
the Republican solution is mental health, and what are they going to do about it? Nothing. Literally nothing. Literally nothing. So if that's your solution, if that's the goal, and you're gonna, how are you gonna get to that goal? Well, we're gonna sit down and do nothing. You're not gonna reach your goal. I'm taking literally the Republican goal of mental health and creating what I think is a way you can move toward that goal. And only the mentally healthy can own those guns. That's the Republican goal. I'm moving towards their goal for them because they're too useless to do it. And I think they're being entirely disingenuous when they say mental health anyway.
It is a mental health thing.
Okay,
I don't
great.
think I'm being disingenuous at all.
Okay, what, how do we get mentally unhealthy people to not buy guns?
You can't.
You can't. So then shut the fuck
You
up about
can't,
it. You
but
don't get to complain about it if you're not going to do anything about it.
you can expand access to mental health care. You
Great.
can make it so that people
I'm on board with that.
um, you can make it so that people who do get mental health care are not stigmatized for it. You can um,
I don't think that's a stigma. I think that's a self-chosen stigma. I think that's one of those self-chosen victimization things. If your doctor says, "Hey, man, I don't," if your psychiatrist, mental health professional says, "Man, I don't think you should own a gun,"
you
that's not a
can
victimization. That's not a stigmatization. That is not a uh, thing that you need to fight them on.
well, hold on a second. You are assuming a lot there because what you're assuming there is that the mental health professional that says, I don't think you should own a gun, doesn't just think that everyone shouldn't own a gun.
We can train them in proper procedure. There are thousands of checklists within the medical industry. They don't let you know that, but they all have checklists. Surgeons go down a checklist before they begin the surgery on you. A mental health professional could be brought in and trained on this licensing program. Because guess what's going to happen is that people are going to come to them with licensing questions. They're going to say, "Hey, I got turned down by the licensing office. Can I speak to you about this?" And then they will speak to you about it, and then they will give their opinion. And they've been trained
Uh,
on that as well.
Again, it's just even with the training, the, you're assuming that these people are going to assuming that they have an ideological disagreement with gun ownership, that they would act in perfectly good faith on this basis. And I don't think that the ability to defend your rights should be contingent upon somebody else's opinion.
Go find a different one then. If you apply for the gun license and they say no because of your ongoing untreated depression,
Well, again,
you
okay,
go to
well then you
your
just find a
doctor.
different one until you find one that has a very pro-gun stance.
Hmm. And then if you
I
shoot
mean,
the
this
place
is
up, then if you shoot the place up, if you shoot up a mall in Texas, that uh, mental health professional has their license questioned. Their their ability to provide mental health gets brought up, and have a bureaucracy look at that. Hey, this guy's been signing yes to everybody and everything. Every single time somebody comes to him, he just checks yes. Let's look into that. Let's find out if this guy is just ideologically opposed. Let's figure out whether or not he needs to do it. Yes, this is fine. This is working. This is a system that's working.
I I I just can't get past the idea that you think that everybody should be going to a mental health professional before they purchase a firearm.
I didn't say that. I said a license. You go and get a license, just like you get a driver's license.
You have to have a license to purchase the firearm.
Sometimes, in some places, and they don't check your mental health stuff. So,
Isn't that what you're suggesting?
yes, go to the licensing place. The licensing place takes your information. They look you up in a database. If you have zero mental health issues, if you have nothing there, then they have zero red flags and they grant you your license.
Okay.
And then you're allowed to
So,
buy them. And then
so
the person selling it to you,
to
now
be
there's
clear,
more. The person selling it to you then takes documents your license and puts that into a database and said, I sold this to this license number. Yes.
then what was incorrect about the potential to deter people from seeking mental health assistance?
That's a choice they would make. That person who sees this hurdle, they've heard these are the things you have to go through to get a license, and they know that they have issues with depression. They know that they've been to a mental health institution in the past. They know that they have these mental health issues, and they see that hurdle, and instead
Oh,
of
they don't know
confronting
it.
that hurdle,
They
of course they know
maybe
it.
no. This is a person that suspects that they might have a problem,
Hmm.
or that their family and friends may have suspected they have a problem,
Okay.
and suggested that they go see a psychiatrist.
Okay. And if they haven't,
And
and they
this person has not seen one.
okay, then that person clears the hurdle.
They clear the hurdle,
It's not
and
100%
now,
perfect.
and so our untreated people are the ones that clear the hurdles, and the people that have actively sought treatment for their mental health conditions are now penalized for doing so
I
on
wouldn't
the
call that
basis that they.
penalized, but
I would say it's a penalty. Yeah,
it's
you've lost
unusual.
your right to self-defense.
Okay. It's unusual for those mass shooters to have zero mental health issues beforehand. It's unusual for them not to have a record of mental health issues. You know what I'm saying? I bet we
No,
could look them
that
up.
it's not. No, it is. It is typical that people around them have suggested that they had some kind of mental health issue, but the number of those mass shooters that have actually been to see a psychiatrist are substantially smaller. Maybe they've seen
I thought they were all
a.
on antidepressants, and that was a big conspiracy. Alex Jones has told me that every single one of those mass shooters is on antidepressants and SRIs, and we need to get rid of them. The SSRIs are what's causing all this stuff. But I could just be quoting nonsense right now. I don't even know how to Google that.
23% of mass shooters are on psychiatric medication.
How many?
23%.
23%. Okay. That would have prevented, under my system, them from buying a gun.
So if you seek medication, and that's 23% of mass shooters that
Hmm.
were on SSRIs,
Okay.
which is how many people?
I don't know. Not many. I
Not
agree.
many.
Not many.
And how many people are on SSRIs?
Millions.
Okay. So you're suggesting that millions of people should not be allowed to have a gun because they have been prescribed some psychiatric medication.
I'm suggesting that millions of people who want to go
It's
and get that license will have to clear that hurdle. I'm not saying that you took an SSRI once you're out, you lose your entire Second Amendment. No, I'm suggesting that you go to get a license. The licensing committee has some lines, some guidelines, and some ideas, and some SOPs in place. And if you clear that hurdle, then you're allowed to buy them according to the license number that you're given, and anything that's sold to you is attached to that license. And then, if you don't clear it because you are currently on 7 different kinds of psychiatric medicine, that's okay. You can find another way to protect yourself. Pepper spray, uh, stun guns, um, probably about it.
Probably not it. Yeah. Not nearly as effective. And
No, it's not as effective. But we also don't want you to be effective at killing people. You're on 7 different kinds of uh, medication. People who are schizophrenic should not be as effective at killing people. And I accept the fact that that might mean that they aren't as effective at defending themselves as well.
I don't
I'm
believe that
asking them to be brave.
I don't believe that SSRIs are used to treat schizophrenia.
I know.
But
I was being facetious. I was going to the extreme.
I mean, in terms of major illnesses like schizophrenia and whatnot,
Hmm.
do you agree with reopening like asylums and whatnot?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. If they're run properly, they're not run properly. I know Reagan
Well,
closed
I
them all
agree with
down
you.
in the 80s, and before then, they were shitholes that were barely functioning, and the people who worked there didn't give a shit. Uh, it was just a
Oh,
full,
certainly.
it was a prison for people we don't like. People who don't quite fit in with society are locked in this prison of an asylum, and then the people that work there don't give a shit about them. They just want to get done with their day, and we treated them poorly. Uh, there is
Okay,
lots we could do.
That's
Yeah.
fair. I would agree with reopening the asylums,
Hmm.
which I think Reagan made a mistake there.
Hmm.
Um, and making sure that they're run, humanely.
Okay. That's going to cost a lot of tax money. It's just
That's
all
fine.
there is to it. If that idea got more people mental health and there were and it I would be willing to look at evidence of that plan lowering the amount of mass shootings. And I would comprehend perhaps that that is causing a lowering in mass shootings.
I doubt that it would have a substantial impact, but I also would say that I think it's necessary anyway. Um,
Mm.
you know,
Kyle said his
I think
driver's
that
license checks his eyes. If you can't see, you can't
driver's
drive.
license
Okay.
checks his eyes.
Hmm. You have to pass an eye exam before you're allowed to drive.
Well, yeah, you got to be able to see the signs,
Okay.
or else you're liable to crash.
Um, is a completely blind person allowed to get a gun license?
Or allowed to purchase a gun. Um, I'm actually not sure. Perhaps, yeah, actually, yeah, I think they are
I think they're
allowed
allowed,
to
and I think
purchase a
that's a
gun.
terrible idea. But um,
Maybe it is. I don't know if a completely blind person would be so deluded as to think that they are the daredevil and can hear invaders. I think that a completely blind person typically relies on others for their support and protection,
mhm.
generally.
And that sucks. That to be in that position, I would not want to be blind. I would not want to be in that way. But I'm okay with the government preventing a completely blind person
I
from
think that that
buying
is an
guns.
absolutely insanely rare occurrence.
I know it's
Like,
insanely rare. I
I don't think
agree.
that
You're right.
a blind person would find any value in owning a gun because they can't see the target they're trying to shoot.
I
They'd
know.
probably see more value in owning a knife or a bat.
I know. I agree with you, and it is an incredibly rare thing. But are we hampering that person's rights by telling them they can't own a gun?
Does the ownership of that gun improve their ability to defend themselves? No,
So we're not harming their rights by telling them not to.
I don't think so.
Interesting.
Not a blind person. I mean, they literally can't use the gun.
Okay.
The gun is not a it's not something that is a functional method of defense for them.
Okay. Okay. So, anything else you want to mention before I jump onto the Second Amendment itself?
Um, let's see. We did mental health. We did licenses. Yes, I do actually.
Sure.
So what kind of a timeline are they looking at? I mean, obviously, having to get this license implies a waiting period or something, right?
Hmm. I would imagine that
I
yeah,
mean, it
it's
has to go
slow
through a
and
bureaucracy, right?
yeah, it has to go through bureaucracy slowly. But
Um,
that's not a bug. That's a feature.
that's certainly a bug, I think. What do you think about? Well, let's take our 5'2", 105 or 5'1", 105 pound female
Hmm.
for a second,
Hmm.
and she has a stalker. She's
Hmm.
just discovered she has a stalker,
Hmm.
and that stalker is 6'2", 210 pounds.
Okay.
Um, she decides that her life is in danger,
Hmm.
calls the cops
Hmm.
about it first. The cops
Hmm.
aren't going to do anything about it because nothing yet has been done
They take
to her.
stalking seriously. It's not a nothing.
Well,
It's not a noise complaint. Stalking is not a noise complaint. The cops don't blow
I
those
I
off. But
certainly
okay.
have read articles
Okay.
about women that have called the cops like 10 times
Okay.
about a stalker,
Cops are doing a
and the
bad
cops
job.
didn't do
Okay.
anything.
Great. They're doing
Well,
a
yeah,
piss poor
you
job.
can't
Okay.
trust the government to do anything properly.
Okay.
So she decides she wants to buy a gun, goes to apply for that license, and it takes 10 days to get the license.
Okay.
8 days later, the stalker attacks her, and she's raped and killed.
She's an idiot for not buying pepper spray and a stun gun in the meantime.
She bought pepper spray and a stun gun, and the guy was on cocaine. Didn't matter.
Okay. That's sad. I hope that doesn't happen.
You deprived her of her right to defend herself at that point.
No, I slowed down her purchasing of a gun. I didn't
Of a weapon that
deprive
she
her
could
of
use
the
to defend
right to
herself.
defend herself. She can defend herself by running away. She can defend herself by screaming. She can defend herself by avoiding situations. She can defend herself with pepper spray. She can defend herself with a stun gun. So she's
All
capable
those
of
ways
defending
of you
herself.
can defend yourself are useless if they aren't actually effective.
Those are all effective things.
Not
They
always,
are not
and
gun lethal. So if
they're
they are
they're
not as
certainly not
effective,
always effective.
they're not as effective as a gun. I agree. They're
Not
not
nearly.
as effective at killing people or stopping attackers as the gun is. Oh, but if we just made it an 8-day waiting period, or we made the bureaucracy move faster, those also have issues. Uh, a bureaucracy that moves too fast is just a rubber stamp that doesn't do anything. If it's not actually investigating and looking into these things and creating the licensing properly, then the schizophrenics will get through. They'll get the guns, and then the person who shoots up the place will have a license. It's not a I'm not suggesting that any of my ideas are 100% perfect. I'm suggesting that we need better plans.
I just don't see where the plans are in keeping with maintaining your rights. I think that the plans are overladen with bureaucracy
Hmm.
and potentially counterproductive. Um, but B, also, in a lot of cases, I can see them infringing upon rights when they don't have to.
It's a hurdle to get over. Yeah, and the hurdle, sometimes a good person will get stuck on those hurdles. But the idea, the hope, the thing I'm trying to do is make it to where crazy people with mental issues don't get guns. And I can't think of a better way to make that happen. If you can think of a better way to make that happen, I'm on board. But I have a feeling I know what your answer would be, because I asked you for my position, and I think your position, if you'll allow me, is that the only thing that can stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, and so we need more of them. Um,
I wouldn't say we need more of them, but I'll agree with the first part of your sentence.
okay,
Yeah.
that's true. I agree with the first part of that sentence. The only thing that can stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Well,
Yes.
great.
The therefore we need
Can
more
we
of them
stop the
part
bad guy
is
from getting the gun to begin with? Is what I'm saying. I'm going underneath it, saying, why did the bad guy get a gun? How did that happen? How did that happen? Let's prevent that.
I don't necessarily think that's preventable,
And
especially with our upcoming new age of 3D printed firearms.
so it's unpreventable.
Yeah, no, there's
Okay.
no way,
I don't
especially in the
accept
next
that.
20
Not
years, that we're going to be able to prevent people from getting guns, and we can't do it now. I mean, the number of killings that are committed with illegal firearms is it's ridiculous.
ridiculously low.
No, it's ridiculously high.
Okay, let's
The number
stop
of killings
getting
with
illegal
illegal
guns.
firearms.
Right,
Well,
because we
how
are
do you stop
lax
illegal guns? The
by
whole point,
creating a bureaucracy that ties them to a
all
license, by
all of
stopping
these,
the gun show loopholes, by stopping the fact that gun store owners don't have to keep a fucking inventory, or that the inventories they do keep are all on paper because they're terrified that a fucking government database will know how many guns they have because they're lunatics.
these are no, these are guns that are obtained illegally in some way. It's whether they're stolen,
Mm-hmm.
or if they came through the border, or
No,
if
guns go south through the border, not north.
they go both ways.
Okay.
Um, all manner of illegally obtained guns.
Great. Let's stop that. How do we
Those are
stop
the ones
that?
you literally can't.
You
That
literally can't. I ideologically disagree with that stance. If you just say you can't, so we shouldn't try, then why do you even? We can't, so we're not going to try. Can't be done. Just give up.
a gun is stolen.
Uh huh.
How do you
Because
prevent the gun from being stolen?
convince people that safes are a good idea, and that the I don't know. Other than convincing people that safes and gun locks are a good idea, I don't think that there is a way to prevent it. Lock them up.
The 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 safe itself. Okay, actually, you know what? You said convince people that they're. You're not saying the mandate safes, right?
Right. I don't suggest mandating what you put in your house. That's not a good call.
Okay.
Convince people
Okay.
that it's a good idea, and explain to them during their training. Don't they have to go through training for proper firearm safety? And show them the numbers. This is how many people are killed with stolen guns. Don't let your gun get stolen. Make it part of the
Okay.
training. Make it explain it to them that listen, this is harming people. This is harming your rights. If too many people steal guns and start murdering people, it's going to have the government crack down. Don't be a part of the government crackdown. Okay? You can explain this to people in a way that they will understand it and comprehend it. Here's some gun safes. Here's some gun locks. Here's I think it was like trigger locks that would work as well. It would be a pain in the ass for that person to get off, but hopefully you can report it stolen by then, and the police can do something about it. Maybe if we're lucky.
They
Uh,
won't.
but according to this number, Americans are
Well,
also
they
careless
don't.
with their
And
guns. Nearly half of gun owners don't even bother to lock them up. That's how they get stolen.
okay, that sentence itself
Hmm.
is absurd. Um, if the point of owning a gun is to defend your rights, your natural rights, then to lock them up is to impede yourself in the defense of those rights. So if a person breaks into your house, whether it's whether it's to infringe upon your life, your liberty, or your property,
Mm-hmm.
and you have your gun in a safe that takes you freaking 30 seconds to open up, and then you gotta go somewhere else to get the ammunition and load that gun and whatnot. You've now spent a minute, possibly,
Mm-hmm.
or 2 minutes
Mm-hmm.
that are now potentially minutes that you didn't have.
Mm-hmm. I'm
Maybe this person's already in your room and you
okay.
woke up to them opening your door. No.
That's entirely possible, and I'm gonna need you to be brave enough to do that. I'm gonna need you and the people of the NRA to be that brave.
I refuse.
I know,
I refuse.
because the
If
NRA
somebody
is filled
walks in
with
my room,
cowards. The
no.
NRA is
If
full of
someone break,
cowards.
I'm not a coward.
No,
If
I'm not.
someone walks in my room, and they're uninvited and they're here to either kill me
Mm-hmm.
or rape me or steal from me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to shoot that motherfucker.
Great. Shoot them. And I'm
And
gonna
and
need
there's no
you
way you're telling me that I have to go to a safe to open it for 1 minute so that I have a timer before I can actually defend myself.
because you're
Ridiculous.
scared.
Especially if I'm a
You're
105-pound
scared.
woman.
You're scared that that's going to happen, and you're not going to have enough time. And in that fear, you create the NRA. You create unmitigated access to firearms. You create uh, the uh,
It's not a fear.
the it's
It's a matter
fear.
of it's not fear. No, it's a
Yes,
matter of having the ability to defend yourself and maintaining it.
because you're scared that the safe will slow you down in doing so. You're
Because you're
worried. You're
scared. No, this is I think it's a very valid concern to have.
It's a valid concern. I accept that. Also,
Okay, so
fine.
so
Valid
valid
concern.
concern. You can't just
I'm
shame
gonna
people for
need
having
you.
valid concerns.
Okay,
Ridiculous.
great. Well, I'd like to get rid of all the guns because I'm scared my children are gonna get shot at school. You're gonna shame me for that stance, aren't you?
The chances that happens are very low, but I
Okay,
mean
great.
that's fine for you
Would you call me
to want that.
a weak-kneed sissy liberal who wants to get rid of all the guns? What I'm saying
No, I
is,
would just say that the vast majority of people's valid concern about their own safety is uh, probably supersedes the very infinitesimal concern that your child will be shot at school, which
okay,
I know we have all these shootings that keep getting reported and whatnot. But the chance your child is shot at school is very, 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 very low,
I know,
right?
but it
Whereas the
keeps
chance that
happening a
someone's
lot.
rights are infringed upon in a way that they cannot defend themselves without the use of a firearm is substantially higher.
And I'm asking them to be brave enough to put a lock on it while it's lying around the house. That's all I'm asking. And I don't think I don't think that's unacceptable. And I will probably uh, segue this back to the police.
How about I'll give you this: if you are going to leave the house and you own a firearm that you are not bringing with you, then you have to lock it up. Is that
I
a
th-
valid?
I think that's fine. I think that's
Okay.
fine. I'm not
If you are in the
suggesting
house
Mhm.
and the firearm is near you or with you,
It doesn't have to be locked up. Yeah, I agree. I'm okay with
okay,
that. I'm
all
not
right.
suggesting that all of them have to stay inside a Fort Knox locked monster closet that takes 9 hours to open. And uh, I mean, that's what the NRA is going to suggest that I'm suggesting. But if you're in your house, leave it open, and you don't have small children who are going to play with it, or you teach your kids how to respect it, that's fine. Uh, I'm willing to bet that the stolen guns that you were discussing a few minutes ago aren't stolen from the person as they're pointing it at them. You don't steal a gun from somebody who's pointing a gun at you. You sneak into their house when they're not home, and you take it because it's not locked up.
Okay, that's a fair compromise.
Okay.
I'll say
I
if you have a
Yeah,
gun that you're going to leave out in your house,
I accept it.
then lock it out.
If
Lock it
you
up. But if you're in your house, you're around the gun already,
mhm, you can leave it
that
open,
just
leave it
doesn't have to be
unlocked.
locked up.
Totally fine with me. completely
Okay.
acceptable.
All right.
And I think you're onto a point there that uh, nobody's those things are being stolen when you're not home, and it's because they don't lock them up. So yeah, I think we can come to a good idea there. I think there is something good there. I don't think you have to leave it locked unless you're literally being attacked. So we came to a compromise almost.
I think that's fair.
Okay.
Uh,
Because you don't want
I think,
guns being stolen either, right?
of course not.
This is a bad thing. We can agree on that. People breaking
Right.
into your house and taking your guns because it wasn't locked up is a serious fucking problem.
Yes, it is.
Okay, I agree. Um, that's how the bad guys get the guns. So we can put some hurdles in place. We can put some things in place to prevent the bad guy from getting the gun. That's what I want. That's all I'm suggesting. That's the uh, stance that I'm taking. The Second Amendment. You want to tell me about this? Because I'm going to blow your mind.
Go for it.
Okay. It is an oxymoron. Second Amendment itself is incomprehensible and unworkable. It is a shit sentence.
Read.
Regulated and shall not be infringed cannot be in the same sentence. You
Yeah, I
cannot.
think we should just get rid of the first uh little bit there.
Okay, because it's an oxymoron, right? You cannot be well regulated and not infringed. You can't. The two are opposite each other. This is the dry ocean. This is the married bachelor. The Second Amendment is the married bachelor. You can't be both. And
Well,
that's
nowadays. But no, I'm just kidding.
no, I
I'm
mean
kidding.
even
Uh,
back in the day you couldn't be. You can't be a married bachelor. It's impossible. The two things are opposite of each other. You cannot be well regulated and not infringed. The fact that you would have both of them in the same sentence means that it's a bad sentence. It's an oxymoron. It's unworkable. Um,
okay. And what do you think the spirit of the Second Amendment was?
to
Without how ridiculous the wording is here, I agree that the beginning and end of this sentence are not particularly compatible with
mhm, mhm.
one another. What do you think the spirit of the Second Amendment is?
It's damn near impossible to tell because we live in such a different planet than when it was written. Um, when they wrote it, they were fighting the British for freedom,
Uh huh.
and that's where the well-regulated militia comes in,
Right.
and they provide security of a free state.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I think the first half is far more important than the second half.
Well,
I think we put the first part, the most important part first. Regulated militia is necessary. I can agree with this sentence so far. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. I agree. The right to the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I'm okay with it, and it says shall not be infringed because
right.
you
But
can't regulate and not be infringed. You can't do both. So you
oh,
put the
right.
important part first.
So
I suspect that someone just like you and me had this argument in 1780, whatever year it was that they did the amendments, and griped and argued with each other for hours on end until they came to a compromise, and that compromise is an oxymoron of a shit sentence.
well, yeah. Actually, though, our understanding of militia may be a bit different as well.
It,
So I agree that regulated and then not be infringed are parts that differ with each other,
mhm.
I'd say. But militia has a number of definitions. So you're thinking of a military force that is not part of a regular army
Mm-hmm.
and is subject to call for service in an emergency. Right?
Sure.
All right.
That
How
makes
about
sense to me.
how about the whole body of physically fit civilians eligible by law for military service? Also, definition of militia.
Okay.
Or an army composed of ordinary citizens rather than professional soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think that the number of definitions that we have here, or maybe you've got a private group of armed individuals that operates as a paramilitary force and is typically motivated by a political or religious ideology.
That one scares me. I sure hope we don't have any of
That one's
those.
very interesting, isn't it?
Right. I sure would hate for those to have unregulated access to guns. Because they would.
Actually, specifically, the the follow up to that on the dictionary is specifically such a group that aims to defend individual rights against government authority that is perceived as oppressive.
Right. Those guys could enforce wrong things.
Well, the whole point is to uh, oppose enforcement of wrong things. Actually,
Yeah, but
but
that's like their opinion, man.
that is,
Would you
and
consider Al Qaeda to be in that definition? That version of the definition of militia.
depends on who was oppressing them. And I don't know much about Al Qaeda.
Could they fit within any of those definitions of militia?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So their opinion is that we're being oppressed by the West, and they need to create a militia to prevent it. And they're wrong. So yeah, militias can be bad. I rec-
Were we not oppressing Iraq and Afghanistan by the nature of being there and
well, now
occupying
look
their
who's a
territory with
liberal.
military force?
Welcome to the left side, comrade.
Wait a second.
There's
No, 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 no. I asked you a question. You have to
I
answer it.
I reverse pushed you to the left. I jumped onto the right and then pushed you to the left. It's a tactic.
I asked you a
Um,
question. Now you have to answer it.
okay. The question was, are we harming those people? Yes.
No, the question was, would Al Qaeda fit under the definition of militia?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I think they are. That's why I brought them
Just
up.
curious.
You described
You
the
know,
thing to me, and I was like, oh yeah, that's like Al Qaeda, right? Yeah.
you know that I don't support the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, right?
I know you don't.
And actually, most Republicans nowadays don't.
Well,
It's the
they,
neocons
now they
that
don't.
do.
I mean, they used to. They called me a lot of names in 2003 for saying, hey, this is probably a bad idea. Um,
I'll agree with that. I do think that Republicans back in 2003 went the wrong way on this.
okay.
Um, just it's exactly. I mean, look, I can look back and say, hey, these things were bad. Just
Okay.
like I can look at Reagan's administration and say, hey, you probably shouldn't have done amnesty. You
Hmm.
probably shouldn't have closed the asylums. Those are
Okay.
bad ideas.
Okay. And
And I can also look at Bush's tenure and say, hey, probably shouldn't have invaded Afghanistan.
mhm.
Like, I mean, come on.
Bad plan. Bad call.
Bad plans. Bad
Yeah, I
calls.
agree.
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to look at the plans that are happening now and determine whether or not they're bad plans. Predicting things is hard. I recognize that, but
Well, so what is it
especially the
about the
future.
Second Amendment then that you have a major problem with other than the regulation and the shall not be
It's
infringed part?
it's incomprehensible. Nobody can interpret it correctly because it is an oxymoron. It is a married bachelor, and
Did you answer this
because
already? I think my question was, what do you think the spirit is then?
the spirit is that we want to prevent a takeover of the British or something along those lines, and hence you're allowed to create a militia, and that militia will do the security of the free state, and the people will make up that militia, and they will bear arms.
Right, and you're
And then the "it shall not be infringed," I think is the shit part. That's how would you
oh, okay.
how would you put
I
that in
think
there?
that
The "shall
your
not be
interpretation
infringed."
of the word militia is the shit part.
Okay, well that's what I'm saying. because this term is a married bachelor, I'm saying, hey man, the most important part is married, and you're saying, nah man, the most important part is bachelor, and it cannot exist. Because it cannot exist, we will continue to have this argument forever until somebody changes the Second Amendment. Oh, hi. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button, press the subscribe button. Uh, if you want to tell me how right I am, feel free to leave a comment. If you want to tell me how wrong I am, leave a comment too. That's good. Um, this is just kind of a hobby for me, so I appreciate you coming by, giving it a watch, and pressing the YouTube buttons. Thanks.